We talking about sports, get ball.
What it do, baby?
Yeah. What it do, you number one podcast listeners? Short hiatus, but a spicy episode ahead for you. You have tuned in to a brand new episode of the number one podcast in your headphones, Prem Brulee. And this is a special episode because I'm joined by two co-hosts, two big bros, Vish and Roshan. Vishbot and Roshanbot, they've joined me because it's a big episode. We got a lot to talk about, and they both blew up my phone about needing a new episode. So here they both are. Welcome back.
Thanks for having us. And it was definitely a joint dibs.
Yeah, it was a joint dibs. I couldn't decide between you guys, so I said I guess I'll go ahead and do a 3 co-host episode, and here we
Sucks
are.
To be you.
Sucks
to be you.
Let's get it.
And if not, it's Rosh and Vish's fault. So
I will wear that burden. Yeah, I'll wear that burden.
Yeah. All right. Before we get started, you know the drill. Let's cover our sponsor. This episode of the Prem Brulee podcast is brought to you by Sleep Battle Photography. It's a boutique photo studio in Asbury Park, New Jersey. From cinematic stills, unique and classic wedding and elopement photos, even commercial photography like you see for the Prem Brulee brand, Sleep Battle is a full-service studio. So visit their Instagram or website. It's at Sleep Battle, SleepAttle, or sleepbattle.com, and treat your eyes to something nice. You already know, number one photographer for the number one podcast in your headphones, my guy Thomas. Speaking of other co-hosts that have been on here, we got to support the brand.
Quick question about him. What does the name Sleep Battle mean? I don't know why I've never asked this.
There's got to be something to it.
I got to ask him that. I'm not
trying to figure it out here. I was like, I don't get it.
Stand your ground, Thomas. We need answers.
We do need answers. Yeah.
Is his favorite movie Sleepless in Seattle? And that was too long?
I can't imagine he's notorious for hating like all movies.
All right, yeah.
Oh,
like,
cool.
Or maybe,
I like that.
Speaking of,
maybe it's his
Vish is on here. He's famous for zagging.
Yeah.
Thomas is like that in real life.
Maybe he hates the movie so much that he named his photography business out of it.
I do know he was part of a band called Way No Way, and I know the origin of that. That's from Friends.
Okay. Sweet.
So that's in his history. He's quite the interesting character. So anyway, we got a lot to get to, you two. So without further ado, let's get started on Yeah Fam or Nah, and we're continuing with the word association because we got a lot to cover. So hopefully you guys are game. I'm sure we'll still get our rants in here. All right. So first up, we got a lot of NBA to cover. So the NBA playoffs and the NBA finals wrapped up from the last time we dropped an episode. Obviously the Snakes of Oakland, aka the Golden State Warriors, defeated the Boston Celtics in 6 games. Steph Curry finally got his elusive NBA Finals MVP, making him an actual legitimate great player now, I guess. But give me a yeah fam or nah and your word or phrase that goes with it. I'll start with you, Rosh.
All right. Actually, am a yeah fam to this because, my word association is whatever. It's legitimate. Happy for Steph finally getting his due and doing it the way that the entire NBA fan base has been waiting for him to do. But, at the true core of me, I'm not happy Golden State won another one. But it was a decent finals.
Are we allowed to do hyphens in here? Because if I do hyphens, I'll do night-night. I love Steph's pettiness. He's born, raised in Akron. I don't know if he was raised in Akron, so that's wrong. But it's just nice to see him get his due. And him being petty on top of it, I think is just really on brand for this podcast. So I love it. And I think he probably could have won the 2015 Finals MVP, to be honest. Like, Iguodala didn't really do much. But at the end of the day, you got to give it up for him, one of the greatest shooters of all time. So,
my word for this, I'm a nah, obviously. I'm a hater, and any team that has Draymond the woke green on it is Draymond new media vote green on it is gonna be enough for me. And my word for this one's gonna be second, as in their second ring. Don't ever play yourself and think it's anything else. Anyway, let's move on from that garbage and hope that some super team comes and prevents them from winning another ring, because
It's the pretty boys versus the
cannot
petty boys.
stand the thought of them winning again. It's annoying.
Yeah,
as hell.
I can't stomach that either.
Yeah. It's all fun and games, like cool. Klay Thompson came back from injury, whatever. Pretty sweet. Multiple injuries. But okay, we did it. They won. Now we can be done with it. Back to villains, everyone. Come rejoin us.
Agreed.
Us, okay? We don't give a shit about them. So they've won enough.
I'm fine with that.
Me too.
Could you just imagine the hardship they've went through, getting paid millions of dollars and switching buildings to this nice arena, this big buildup? The only buildup they needed was Klay Thompson. He got hurt.
Yeah.
He has a reason to build this up and make it emotional. Steph Curry out here crying like he had it tough. Like, you spent 2-3 years away from winning it all, and you're acting like you went through hardship. Give me a fucking break here. What are we talking about here?
Petty is real.
It's also gassed up the Draymond train, and I like went in the last like 6 months. I went to like being like, Draymond's actually pretty cool. To once again hating his ass again, like through and through. I'm like, oh god, he's insufferable when he wins.
If there's ever a 100% of anything, he's 100% a mouth breather, and that's what he is.
And he is full-time mouth breathing once again.
My gosh, it is obnoxious, and I mean, whatever.
Anyway.
We hate him for a lot of reasons. I think even being Buckeye fans from his days at Michigan State, it's awful. So
let's before we get back to the NBA, you number one podcast listeners know that I'm number one hockey expert. Go Jackets, go hockey. But in the interest of making sure our co-hosts are taken care of here at Prem Brulee, so, I wanted to let Vish give a quick breakdown of what's happened, obviously, in hockey. So take it away, Vish.
all right, did you want me to cover the NHL draft that went tonight, the first round, or the Stanley Cup final?
Considering I didn't know that the NHL draft was tonight, let's
It was just the first round. Prime time, first round.
Yeah, congrats to those who got drafted in the first round of a draft I had no idea was going on right now.
Yeah. So we're gonna go ahead and go with Stan here.
Yeah.
So my word for the Stanley Cup final, which is what I'm prepared for, because I love hockey, but I don't really follow the draft because it's a bit chaotic. So the Stanley Cup final was fantastic, and that's that word. The Avalanche was that team this year. I'd probably equate them to the Milwaukee Bucks, if you will, where they have just superstars, they have up and down, then they're in the playoffs, they exit early, and then they finally went through. They were just a steamroll engine. They went 16-4, which is unheard of. They beat this dynasty. Tampa was going for back-to-back-to-back, which is unheard of even in the Stanley Cup final.
And who's gonna break the news to Steven Stamkos?
And then they had the Conn Smythe winner, which is like the postseason MVP, was also the best defenseman, which is the Norris Trophy. Cale Makar was incredible. Everyone wants him. A lot of people know the big names for the Avalanche if you do follow hockey, but it was just an all-out amazing offensive assault, a lot of speed too. So even if you didn't like hockey, it was great. So Bram, Roche, you guys can wake up now.
Yeah, I was about to fall asleep. But I did learn that defense wins championships, apparently, still, somewhere.
Yeah. You guys don't have any thoughts about this?
I was gonna add in, but you kind of stole all the main points, so I just wanted no need to echo any of that.
Most defensemen are actually pretty big. They're probably like our size, Brem, and then Makar is probably like Roche's size.
Wow.
Damn.
Sorry, I had
Damn.
to, but it's just in context because defensemen are generally big intimidators, and Makar can do that, but he's very much versatile as the new style defender that you want on your team.
Got it.
Shout out the
I'll remember that.
Shout out the Avalanche, Peter Forsberg and Joe Sakic. You know.
And for the record, people, shout out to the short kings that are not blessed with being above 6 foot, despite what Vish just said. I will be representing all short kings out there. I don't care what
no one
anybody
had
says.
to know Roche's height even. All he's been on here is a floating head, and Vish had
Seriously, son of a bitch.
Damn.
I could be, yeah.
This man
I have to. It's been so long since I've been on here. I had to get the shots out.
You
got to.
You number one podcast listeners basically are part of the family group chat now because you just got a little taste of it.
This is exactly what it's like every day.
From the bottom of my heart, I'd like to take this chance to apologize to absolutely nobody.
But anyway, now that the hockey season's wrapped up, it's important that everybody knows go Jackets, go hockey, and
Absolutely.
You know what clip we're about to hit.
But hey, as they say in hockey, let's do that hockey.
Okay. Anyway, you number one podcast listeners can trust us, the number one source of hockey news here, but we're going to head back to the NBA just to appease some of the other fans out there. We'll be back, though. The season's over, and evidently the draft's happening tonight, so you have a taste of that. Speaking of drafts, the NBA draft happened. We talked a little bit about it in the last episode because that's when the lottery happened. Just wanted to quickly go over the top 5. I won't bother with some of the other picks, but as we talked about in the last episode, and everybody knew, the top 3 picks were in some sort of order pretty much decided. There was a slight surprise in that number 1 overall, Orlando Magic took Paolo Banchero. He was a prospect I personally liked the most, but a lot of people thought fit-wise they were going to go Jabari Smith out of Auburn. They didn't. They went with Banchero. The Oklahoma City Thunder stuck with Chet Holmgren at number 2, and that left the Rockets in a great position. They got whoever was left out of the top 3, and they took Jabari Smith, who's a stellar shooter and defender out of Auburn. Rounding out the top 5, the Sacramento Kings took kind of a surprise, Keegan Murray out of Iowa, and then the Pistons took a very emotional, really cool moment, but Jaden Ivey out of Purdue went to the Pistons, and it's cool. He has got ties to Detroit, his family. I think his mom is a women's basketball coach in college, but she also played for the Detroit Shock, so kind of a cool full circle moment. He gets to play in that same city that he's got family in. So anyway, we don't need to do Yeah Fammer now. Obviously, it's too early to tell, but just wanted to cover and put a bow on that. Did want to quick shout out to the San Antonio Spurs for selecting Ohio State's very own Malachi Branham. Let that boy cook this year. And a reverse shout out to everybody in the NBA who did not pick EJ Liddell in the first round, but shout out to you, New Orleans Pelicans, for taking him.
Yeah, sure.
Better surround that guy with some talent and people that can stay on the floor. Looking at you, Zion. So
go Bucks, go Bucks.
Go Bucks, baby. Okay, now the main event. We know that's why we showed up here. NBA free agency never freaking disappoints, does it? It never disappoints.
Nope.
And right out of the gate, we got money flowing in free agency, and most importantly, they always deliver, don't they? You played yourself Hall of Fame members, Kyrie Irving and King Snake Kevin Durant, out of nowhere, in the cosmic stars their heads are up in, decided they won out of Brooklyn after just 45 games together. You couldn't script a better scenario for us on the number one podcast in your headphones. You know we're loving this. But I did want to cover a few details here. Kyrie opted in first to a player option for $46 million. Kind of a curious move if he knew he wanted to go somewhere, but I guess the man wants to get paid to play part of a season. Let him live. It's reported that Kyrie's only trade suitor at this point is the Los Angeles Lakers. I mean, you don't say barely showing up to your job is not something other teams want. I never could have predicted that.
He's heating up!
King Snake Kevin Durant has 4 years left on his contract. In a very shocking move, he prefers the Phoenix Suns and the Miami Heat, who just so happen to be the top seeds in each conference. You do not say, color us shocked, he wants to go to a winning team. The same guy who joined a 73-win Warriors team wants to do it all over again.
He's on fire!
Because I don't know why. here we are. Anyway, before we get to those points, I wanted to cover some of the others, and then I'll give the floor over to you guys to talk about whatever you want in free agency. A big trade happened, I guess, if you consider it that. Rudy Gobert was traded to Minnesota for a whopping 5 players and 5 picks. A lot of first-round picks for reigning Defensive Player of the Year, yes, but definitely a liability on offense, and an odd combo with Karl Anthony Towns. I will definitely address Karl Anthony Towns here in a little bit. The Knicks focused their entire offseason on Jalen Brunson. He signed a 4-year, $104 million deal. His dad is an assistant coach for the Knicks. The Knicks president, Leon Rose, is a family friend. Leon Rose's son, Sam Rose, is Brunson's agent. So there's like a lot of overlapping things for Brunson to end up there. They traded away players and draft picks just to create cap room for Brunson. And early reports are that the Knicks might be penalized for tampering because of the circumstances, but going to be hard to prove that with all the connections. Some other minor notes: Celtics traded for Malcolm Brogdon. They traded pocket change to get a pretty good point guard on their roster. John Wall was bought out for the Rockets. They literally paid him $40 million to not show up there, and he turned around and signed with the Clippers. The Spurs traded DeJounte Murray to the Hawks for Danilo Gallinari and a whole bunch of picks. Gallinari's going to be bought out. So essentially, Spurs are restarting, probably focusing around Malachi Branham. Go Bucks. But Murray, it was a cool thing. They let Murray go. Murray has nothing but positive things to say. They said they're focused on the rebuild and they wanted to give him a chance to win. So he gets paired with Trae Young in Atlanta and see how that pairs up in that backcourt. Very exciting. And then, like I said, the money is flowing in the NBA. There were supermax extensions for Nikola Jokic, who got the largest deal in NBA history, 5 years, $270 million. It is crazy to think that it's not too long ago, I think 2016, Mike Conley, go Bucks again, signed the richest deal in the NBA history at that time. And I think that one was for roughly an average of $30 million a year. Jokic is now up past $50 million a year in just about 5-6 years, to show you how good it is in the NBA right now. Some other max extensions: Devin Booker, Karl Anthony Towns, John Morant, Zion Williamson, Darius Garland, Bradley Beal, who is very secure in Washington, D.C., evidently, because he keeps re-signing there despite him claiming he wants to win. Don't know what that's about, but I guess he got a rare no-trade clause, only the 10th in NBA history. This man found longevity in one city in a profession that is not guaranteed that, so that's the only thing I can think of why he wanted to stay. And then the Snakes of Oakland added Dante DiVincenzo. Somehow the Kings just let him walk and he signed in a very cheap deal. But the Snakes did lose Gary Payton II to the Blazers. Juan Toscano-Anderson signed with the Lakers, and Damian Lee went to the Suns. So a little bit of mixing around, but they still got their core. Anyway, thank you for allowing me all those details. I'm going to turn it over to each of you. And just to recap, we talked KD, Kyrie, Rudy Gobert, Knicks, anything else you want to cover. I'm going to go with Vish first.
All right, we'll go with KD, Kyrie. So we're still doing the word association. So I'm going to say Step Brothers, like the movie, right? So follow me. And so I know we talked about Thomas not liking movies, so hopefully he likes Step Brothers because it is a fantastic movie. So KD, Kyrie's relationship started off like the movie did, where they kind of hated each other, right? And that was the Cavs, Warriors, them going at it. And then all of a sudden they become best friends, right? They both signed with Brooklyn. KD's on podcasts. I'd love to play with Kyrie, so on and so forth. And I feel like right now they're probably in the moment of, packing up, getting ready to go their separate ways. Now we're going to be able to find out if they're going to do adult things similar to Will Ferrell, and John C. Reilly in the movie, and time will tell on that. And then will they actually come back together after they go their separate ways at the Catalina wine mixer? We don't know.
Fucking Catalina wine mixer.
It's the fucking Catalina wine mixer.
the fucking Catalina wine.
We don't know. The Catalina fucking
wonderful
wine
analogy.
mixer. We don't know. So I had to pull that out, connect it, and that's how I think of the KD Kyrie situation.
That kicked ass.
It's the fucking Catalina wine mix.
I mean, I think so. I don't know if I'm going to top that Step Brothers one, but basically for me, the word association for the whole Nets saga is just like Tuck's tail. Like, these guys just, I don't understand what it is about KD. Like, OKC, he gets his ass whooped 3-1, blows a 3-1 lead, joins a 73-win team. Again, this year, wants to join the 2 number 1 seeds, and then he's like, these are the teams that I want to go to. No fucking shit. Who doesn't want to go to them? Like, ask LeBron. Like, this is the thing. It's like these, and I hate always bringing it back to LeBron, but this guy gets so much shit for being a free agent and picking teams. Yeah. He plays out his contracts and picks teams. KD has 4 fucking years left. You know, like, I don't get it, man. And even the New York Post, like, had this headline where it said thin man has no heart, and I don't think KD's career of the last 8 years can be summed up any better.
He's heating up.
This dude has no heart for the game. Like, he's a lot of talk. He's an unbelievable talent, but he's just not a competitor. I would love to see him win and shut people up, but I don't think he's capable of it at this point.
Boom shakalaka!
Why wouldn't they run it back with the Nets? This team is loaded. Yep. Just run it back. You have a great shot to be the number 1 seed in the league and probably win the title. I don't think anyone in the West or the East is as good as the Nets on paper, but I'm not an expert. So that's what I got to say about that.
I kind of teed it off with mine, and mine is, my phrase is probably "you don't say," because I think that sums up exactly what's happening here. All right, next up, you guys, do you have anything to add regarding Rudy Gobert going to the Timberwolves?
Yeah, I think the Minnesota Timberwolves massively overpaid. They gave away their entire future. They seem to be building their team out the right way, and giving up all those first-round picks and those players. They weren't headlining players, but Pat Bev was a big part of why they got to where they were. I don't know why Minnesota would give up that much for Rudy Gobert, not having seen the playoffs with him the last 5 years. This guy has just been targeted on defense repeatedly when it comes down to crunch time because he can't get out to the perimeter fast enough. So Minnesota does have a lot of athletic 3-and-D guys, so it might work out a little better. But pairing up Cat and Rudy Gobert doesn't seem like – those are 2 Charmin soft baby shit dudes. I just don't see that working out for anybody. So I guess my word is Charmin.
Great. I like it.
Smart.
I dig it. Yeah, I think I'll kind of dovetail this into the DeJounte Murray deal compared to the Rudy Gobert deal. So, 2 all-stars, Gobert's probably an all-NBA player just based on his position. So just by default, he makes a shit ton of money. But Murray is so much younger. And I know when the Murray deal came out, there were some unprotected picks that the Hawks sent over, and it was like, this is, the Hawks are kind of going a little all in. But when the Gobert deal came out, you're just like, what the heck? You could probably say as much shit as we talk about for Kevin Durant. That's the type of haul Kevin Durant should expect. But Rudy Gobert, who in 2 years is going to be paid over $50 million, I think, and he's going to be 34, and he's a aging center that's not gotten better over the years. He's actually gotten worse, and that's not just playoffs, but it's regular season too. So, when you're comparing the two, it's man, the Spurs they didn't get much for a 24, 25-year-old Murray that's very versatile. So they're probably kicking themselves. But I mean, I agree with you, Roche. Cat, Gobert, they're just awful to watch basketball for because you're just are you trying? What's going on?
Yeah.
I don't know.
They're just so pouty. Both of them are so pouty.
I call Karl Anthony Towns, I think he's corny.
Well, that's a good word.
I call him corny. He's he talks a big game and then doesn't back it up. That clip of him when he was mic'd up, it's like they're in Minnesota now and they blew a lead. Like
they blew two 20-point leads.
Spicy, dude. Like that is the corniest shit ever. And Rudy Gobert's just gonna enable him to do that frou-frou behind the arc bullshit.
Yeah.
Where he should be going down in the post. Yes, he can shoot, but like he literally disappears in games, and I don't see how adding another big guy in the middle of the paint is going to help any of that.
Yeah.
It's probably going to enable him to be outside the arc the entire
Pretty
time.
much.
So, and Rudy Gobert, as good as he is defensively, is a liability on offense.
You didn't even make the Wolves
he has
any
an
better.
offense.
No. If you were picking the Wolves seventh in the West, you're probably still picking the Wolves seventh in the West. It didn't move the needle at all.
Right.
So, I don't know. It's weird.
They're banking on Ant to be really good. So who knows?
If you wanted to, if someone wanted to zag on this, the only way would be that Minnesota hasn't been out of the first round in forever, and so if you're trying to get out of the first round and show progress or whatever. Fine, but I don't know, and maybe they are going to be a good regular season team because Gobert does show up in the regular season. But it's so silly to throw away your entire future when you have a bad track record as the Wolves. Where and we've seen it, even what we just talked about. You don't know if Anthony Edwards is going to be like, I want to get the F out of here and leave, and now you're screwed.
Yeah, and then your other two guys are D'Lo and
Go Bucks.
Fucking Cat, who any given night can put up 30 points, but also constantly put up 8-point games up in the playoffs. And it's just can you bank on three guys putting up under 10 points in the playoffs that get paid over $30 million a year? That's a horrible way to build a team. Any armchair GM could have put a better team together. Shit, give up all that for DeJounte Murray. That would have been a way better trade.
Yep.
You can lose D'Lo in that deal and get Murray back. That's a way better deal to me.
Well, let's not be disrespectful to D'Angelo Russell.
Yeah, that's fair.
Here, go Bucks.
All right, what's next? What we got next?
Okay. The other thing I think that's probably maybe worth discussing here is Knicks focusing their entire offseason on adding Jalen Brunson. You guys got anything to add here?
No, the only thing I'm going to say is I can't believe that a week before free agency, Jalen Brunson was the headliner. So I gotta really take this time to thank Kyrie Irving and King Snake for being the smart team out of New York to take some headlines and make this free agency extremely interesting right off the bat. Because if Jalen Brunson was the headliner, I was going to sleep through that whole thing.
Yep.
It probably is a little different in New York because Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving are big names, but the Knicks still run that town. No one gives a shit about the Nets, to be honest. So it just, I think it is Jalen Brunson, but the Knicks haven't had a true point guard in forever. And if you are doubling down and just saying, hey, RJ Barrett, Julius Randle is going to have a comeback year or whatever, or even if you're going to get another superstar or whatever, you have a good point guard, someone that has playoff experience. And I think it's a really big loss for Dallas, to be honest, more than a big gain for the Knicks, because Dallas, you were able to put Brunson with Luka and really just terrorize people because you had two prolific scorers that could, shoot a 30-foot three or go to the hole and get layups and ones and all of that, and that's what Dallas's run was. So
Brunson was key because he was another shot creator. He can get his own buckets, doesn't need help to do it. But you're right, Roche. I'm glad the rest of the offseason delivered here.
And on a few trades. And on that Mavs point, I do like the trade they did and getting Christian Wood. Yeah. I think that's a good
underrated.
Good player for Luka to play with. These pick and rolls are going to be nasty with him, and I think Luka's going to benefit a lot more than having Brunson. So, it's kind of an even wash, but they need to fill out that team a little more because as we saw, when it came down to it, Luka was doing everything by himself, and that shit was horrible to watch. No one could score.
That's a good point.
LNH, man.
LNH always. All right. What we got next?
I think that puts a. You guys got anything else to add? Any of the other moves? I think those are the big ones.
I guess on the Supermaxes, I pretty much like every single Supermax except Zion and Cat. I just can't justify. Honestly, this might be a hot take, but I think I would have let Zion walk.
So, congratulations.
I don't think I would want to pay him.
Wow,
I would let him walk. That team was pretty good without him. I don't think he's going to add anything to the team besides slowing them down. They were a really fast team.
I think he will.
I mean, he can dunk unless he gets a solid jumper and stays healthy. I just really Ingram should be that guy in that team. They could have traded him. They could have done a lot more than give him $230 million. I think they're going to regret that contract in about 2 years. I'd go as far. This might put me on you played yourself in a couple years, but I think he's just going to be a bust. I don't think he's ever going to be good.
Wow, that's big.
Yeah.
That's a big.
I don't think he's ever going to be good.
Write it down. Old takes approach.
Damn.
I think the only saving grace for Zion, which is tough. I mean, I think it's hard to disagree with you at this point, but the Pelicans coach, having Willie Green, these journeyman NBA players that are now getting their due. You've seen it with Tyronn Lue, even pretty much the only coach to be able to quote unquote tame Kyrie and get him to a championship form. In that 2016 finals, Kyrie was fucking
nuclear
on LeBron's level, and we haven't seen that really ever. And so I think that is probably the only saving grace. But to your point, Roche, Bram, you probably agree, Zion has to take in that coaching and buy into that team, because adding CJ McCollum when they did, Brandon Ingram coming about, those are just, you got some players there. So
yeah.
Yep. Yeah, they've done a really good job of constructing that team. No surprise, the Cavs old GM was pretty genius at that, and they've made some positive moves to construct a roster. I think the main thing is him staying healthy. It's the same conversation we have about Tony Davis.
Any player.
No, it's too early. It's too early to give Zion a nickname, but he is. He's on notice.
He's on notice.
If we start talking about him not showing up here and not able to hit the floor. He took a whole year off. It's kind of crazy. So he has been. I've seen a lot of clips of him lately in the gym. He's been at camps. He looks explosive again. So hopefully, for the Pelicans' sake, he is, and for the NBA's sake, he's an exciting player.
Hell yeah,
he is.
And probably for Jordan Brand's sake, because this dude's already on his next signature shoe.
Yeah.
He's barely played in the first one. So that wraps up at least NBA for right now. Until we get to You Played Yourself, we got some things to cover there. But I did want to cover this. Roche, we're in Big Ten country here in the Midwest. And Vish and I are both grads of the Ohio State University, trademark now. Don't ever play yourself. But USC and UCLA are set to join the Big Ten. It's reported it's going to be as early as 2024, the season 2024-25 season. So with the addition of USC and UCLA, the Big Ten will now spread from coast to coast. It'll go from Rutgers in New Jersey, covering the New Jersey, New York market, all the way to LA for USC and UCLA. A lot of things kind of go into this move. It seems like a first domino of many, but the fate of the Pac-12 is definitely up in the air. A lot of people think the next big schools to leave for another conference would be Oregon and Washington, because there's a lot of money there and a big market, especially in Seattle. There's rumors flying around of a Big 12, Pac-12 merger, or something like the Big 12 adding 4 teams of their own: Arizona State, Utah, and Colorado is what I've seen. The latest rumor is the SEC adding some more teams. I think what I saw was Clemson, UNC, Florida State, and Virginia going to the SEC. So I think it's going to be a lot of dominoes to fall. It's clear that we're heading towards 2 super conferences, and especially in college football. I think it's going to be the Big Ten and the SEC. And then I could see this being kind of a model like the Big Ten and SEC get 4 teams between the 2 of them, and then they'll have 2 at-large picks in the playoffs. So all those from the other conferences, including what used to be called the Power Five. I think we're heading towards it being no more. And the funny thing is, if you were to, before USC and UCLA joined the Big Ten, the reason why I think it's such a consequential domino is I was thinking that it was going to stand pat with the 5 power conferences, because it was looking like the Big 12 was making some good additions, and obviously we knew nothing about the Pac-12 dissolving. This was kind of surprising, but the Big 12 was adding, U of H, go Cougs.
Go Cougs, baby.
They're adding the Bearcats, who are on a huge high in college football. Mm-hmm. They seem like they were adding pieces that were saving the Big 12 after they lose Oklahoma and Texas coming up to the SEC. But this move kind of puts that in jeopardy, I think. We'll see how it pans out. But USC and UCLA are a huge deal to add to the Big Ten. And a lot of people think the Big Ten's not done because it doesn't really make sense to have just 2 teams sitting out there on an island where the next closest to them is like, I don't know, maybe Nebraska, I think, if my geography is right.
Yeah.
Which is pretty significant distance. So
it's 2 time zones.
One thing I will say, yeah, exactly. I mean, so I think they got to add some more teams to make it a little bit, balanced time zone wise. But I'm very much excited. Big Ten fans always talk about this concept is playing warm weather schools in the winter, them coming to Big Ten country in the Midwest in the heart of winter in November when it's freezing cold, and seeing how they would fare. Because anytime we see those matchups, they're either indoors in the winter or they're at the beginning of the season when it's nice everywhere across the United States. So I'm very much looking forward to seeing this. It creates a cool thing with getting to play USC every few years. As an Ohio State fan, it's cool to add that to a rivalry. I'd love to see the Big Ten add Notre Dame if they'll ever join a damn conference. I tell you, the college football playoff needs to get rid of that rule where they get special treatment. That's the only way they'll join a conference. You mark my words. They get rid of that, they'll be in the Big Ten, I think. So anyway, long-winded. I kind of answered my own, so I'll turn it over to you guys if you have anything to add about USC and UCLA joining the Big Ten, and then all the dominoes to fall that are coming up, it looks like.
I'll go first because mine's short. I think this is pretty good for college football, if not only to take the heat off of losing games, because they put so much stock into not losing any games. Like, I mean, as Buckeye fans, you lose one game, like your playoff shots, you're just like, fuck, this whole season's ruined from one loss. Yep. Putting more competitive, rivalries in the mix, I think opens it up for teams to have 2-3 losses and still be playoff teams. Because it's like, when it's that competitive and you're playing these ranked teams, like someone has to lose. I mean, like, what are you going to punish, like a number 3 team for losing to a number 4 team? You know what I mean? Like, so I think this is good for like competitive stuff as far as the playoff goes. I think the cons of it would probably be like, again, there's like only 2-3 conferences that really matter, and the rest of them are fighting for the Hawaii Bowl or whatever the hell. Go college football. Go Bucks. Go Cougs.
Amen.
I think my word for this would be inevitable. Taken from Thanos.
I am inevitable.
But this has been happening over the last 30 years, anyways, more drastically. I think there's been times even before that where it's happened. I think we talked about Notre Dame a lot. If those 2 super conferences happen, I think to your point, it's going to put so much pressure on Notre Dame actually joining it, where the money is just going to look way too good to turn down. And Notre Dame is its own brand. Geographically, it makes sense for the Big Ten to even take in. And then you're adding USC. You already have Michigan. You have Ohio State, where Notre Dame, has these. USC and Michigan are their biggest rivals, and they don't play them. And I think that's the biggest downfall for these super conferences, is that you might not play your conventional rivals, right? So, at least Texas and Oklahoma, they're going together, so they likely will continue that. But if they're not going to be in the same conference, they're not going to play each other every year, you lose that. You lose that specific aspect of it. So I can go into a huge deep dive of all the different movement and stuff. You can Google it, look at it, but it's been happening forever. Conferences have died. So, I think one of them was the Southwestern Conference, like in the 90s. That used to be a big powerhouse. That was SMU, when SMU had that infamous death penalty, if you will. And then even more recently, the Big East football conference, like it went away like in the last 10 years. Yeah. It became like the AAC or some shit like that. I don't know. It doesn't matter. But I think, Rush, you hit it on the head. Like, it's going to be the same conferences, the same big teams, but, I'd almost argue that if you have two big super conferences, they might control like 5 of the 6 spots. Right. So it's not going to make sense to do anything like that. So the money's intense, and that we're only talking about from the football aspect. Like,
right. There's not even basketball.
Those implications of from a basketball perspective and all of that is pretty chaotic. So if you're adding some of these North Carolinas, Virginias to the SEC, now all of a sudden, like, you're upending the basketball side of things too. So.
You just also reminded me that A&M and UT is going to, or Texas, I guess, as everyone else knows it. Yeah. Texas and A&M are like back to having their rivalry probably at some point.
That went away, right?
That went away because A&M joined the SEC, and that was like a game pretty much everyone in Texas looked forward to, whether you like college football or not. So yeah, that's sweet.
All right, we'll see what continues to happen in college football. It's kind of a crazy time, but you number one podcast listeners, you know what time it is now. Let's hit that intro.
I'm petty as hell. And I'm super petty.
Here we
Petty Le Pew.
go.
That's right, you number one podcast listeners. It is time for You Played Yourself. And without further ado, you know who we had to start with. The Brooklyn Villains. You Played Yourself.
What was his name? It's so great.
King Snake and Kyrie Irving played in a whopping 45 games together. That's it. It's got to be one of the biggest failures in sports history.
Damn.
I mean, think about it. Like, to think that they had Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant, and James Harden all on the same team, and they barely played together. And not only that, they barely won together.
Oh, yeah.
I think there's like one highlight of Kyrie and KD. They're like, does this go down as the best highlight in their history? I'm like, it might be their only one. I don't know what we're talking about best. What are the other choices?
He's heating up!
I mean, it's bad when Jim Harden seems sane and ahead of his time by asking out of Brooklyn last year. We were calling him crazy, and now he looks like a genius because he's in Philly right now.
And he's going to take a team deal to stay there. I'm like, this is not the Harden I know.
He's on fire!
He declined his player option, and we're heading towards him not getting that kind of money ever again.
Yes.
The way he's been playing, I mean...
He turned down a $47 million player option. Like, I was like, as a Houstonian, I had never known James Harden to be selfless. I was like, wow, he finally turned that corner. Like, taking a pay cut, I'm like, maybe he actually does want to win. And he realized he couldn't do it in Brooklyn.
To be fair, he was probably selfless in all the strip clubs around Houston.
Boom, shakalaka!
That's true.
Nice. Well done. Well done.
Very, very supportive. Very supportive. To, they're independent contractors, small business owners. He's supporting small business.
He's got a statue outside of a few of them, that's for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Service above self, brother. Service above itself.
Yeah. So,
oh, God.
Yeah, You Played Yourself, Brooklyn Villains. It goes without saying. I mean, this has got to be one of the biggest letdowns of a team in history. You guys take it away, Rush. You got something to add here?
Yeah, I don't have much to say. I feel like we've had enough, but it's nice to lead with the headliners always, and these guys just continue to find themselves back here. What I wanted to add to this section is I saw this tweet. I can't remember who put it out. I want to say it was StatMuse, but it was duos that have played more games together than Kyrie Irving and King Snake. LeBron and Shaq on the Cavs. Dirk and Rondo on the Mavs. Pippen and Barkley on the Rockets.
Wow.
Hakeem Olajuwon and Vince Carter on the Toronto fucking Raptors.
Wow. Yeah. Everybody forgets about
What a
that.
throwback.
Hakeem at the end of his.
And Kobe and Steve Nash on the Lakers. Those 5 duos have played more games together than KD and Kyrie.
That is insane.
A hilarious stat to me.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, that's all I
Gosh.
got. That's just such a joke to me. I'm like, dude, Pippen and Barkley, that was like that, and that was in a lockout year. I don't know if you guys remember. That was like a lockout year, so they still played more.
And Barkley was like, already like
57 years old.
Yeah,
that was like Pippen requested out of there.
Yeah,
too,
Pippen
right?
was
Like,
57
real
too.
quick.
Both of them.
So old. So the other thing that we haven't talked about here is apparently there was like a news article that, King Snake has gone dark, isn't answering other players' calls, texts, whatever. And I will say he's really funny when he responds to people on Twitter, but he is just so soft because he can't get it back. Like him having to go after like Charles Barkley, who has been probably one of the greatest basketball players that people forget that he was just so good.
Yeah.
With the Sixers, the Suns, and he fell off in the Rockets years, but he was still really great. And so, like, my question here, Roche, Master Nicknamer Bot, Bram, King Petty himself, is King Snake still appropriate for Kevin Durant? Do we need to think of a different nickname than King?
You got any suggestions?
Is it Cup Snake?
Oh, okay.
You talked about Charmin before, Slim Charmin.
Okay.
Going back to the Slim Reaper. I don't know. You came up with Kyrie together, and so I just want to throw that out there that I feel like King Snake, it's giving him too much credit to actually being close to a Black Mamba, and I don't think he has that killer mentality. So up for debate.
Good point.
My man has a great point. We're gonna have to workshop this and come correct on a future episode. By the you have. Here's the promise for you number one podcast listeners. By the time KD makes another headline that makes us get on this podcast, we will have a new nickname for him, and it'll probably be like tomorrow.
I was gonna say the same thing.
So all right, let me amend that. Let me say in the next 3 headlines we'll have it.
There you go. I like that. I just wanted to throw that out there because it was like we talked about King Snake a lot. It kept coming up. I was like, man, it's not.
All right.
He was there. He went toe to toe with LeBron, but it was like with the Warriors, and I mean, anyone could. So I don't know.
Nice work, man, with the full court pressure here. Something that King Snake cannot do. He can't deal with himself. Yeah. Well played.
Okay, sticking in the NBA, I got to give you played yourself to the Boston Celtics.
Yep.
The Celtics were up 2-1 in that NBA Finals series, and then proceeded to lose 3 straight. The name of the game for them was turnovers. I think it was something wild, like their magic number was 15 turnovers and below, and they had only lost like 2 games. And if they committed 16 or more, they barely won a thing. And you just saw repeated, like Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum just flying down the lane, disorganized and like leaving their feet without any plan of where to go. And it turned into like some real sloppy play. You know, it's a bad thing when like Marcus Smart is your most consistent player on your team. It was weird. It was a odd change of pace. I mean, obviously the Snakes of Oakland have experience in championship circumstances, so obviously they were not going to go down without a fight. But it's just weird to see like Jason Tatum especially disappear in the finals. If he doesn't make it back, I can't see that happening again. I mean, it is a lot of pressure for a young player like that, and this is like his first year he rose to superstardom, I would say. But nonetheless, nobody's exempt. You played yourself, Boston Celtics. You had an opportunity. I think weirdly, people, like we talked about at the beginning of the show, people were kind of rooting for the Snakes of Oakland. Like, it's time to rejoin us, okay? Like, enough's enough. We still had to put Boston Celtics on here. You played yourself just to remind you to come on back. Come on back.
Agree.
All right, Rush, take it away. What you got?
Yeah, I mean, back to what you were saying about Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, like, them boys, they really thought they were 2008 Kobe in that finals. I don't know what they were doing. They would, like you said, they would just, like, start dribbling to hell and, like, just run into traffic with three. I mean, the Warriors are a historically great defensive team.
Yeah.
I don't know what they thought they continued to do with Clay, Kevon Looney, and Draymond sitting in the fucking paint waiting for them to come drive in. They knew their game plan. They dared them to continue to do that, and they continue to do it. You know that you got to get the Warriors off their game. They continued to play the Warriors game, and that's why they got their ass beat in those last 3 games. And I hate bringing this back to LeBron, but, like, where do all the narratives for them not performing go? Where do the narratives for Jason Tatum, a number 3, top 5 pick, this guy who everyone has said has taken this leap and has become the face of, one of the biggest franchises in the league. I specifically remember 2007 and 2011 narratives in the finals of LeBron underperforming or choking, but it's crickets for Tatum all of a sudden. Like, he was ass those last 4 games. Like, he was garbage. Dude was shooting under 30% from the field. He was bricking everything. Like, it got to the point where every time he shot, I was like, that's a brick. Like, these were highly contested shots. They were awful. But, we got to hold these guys to the same, credibility standards as we do LeBron, right? I don't hear anyone doing any of that. And, that's the question I would like to pose.
I actually would say that I actually love you bringing up LeBron here in this case. You said you hate bringing up LeBron, and this is a LeBron stand podcast for sure, and I think there's a lot of them out there here. But,
LeBron needs help.
Tatum didn't look like himself, and he got hurt in the Eastern Conference Finals, and it looked like he hurt his shoulder real bad. He was kind of nagging at it. The Celtics should have just came out and said, hey, he had a separated shoulder, and okay, cool, that makes sense. But I think straight out he just ran out of gas, and to again put it back in perspective. Yeah, Curry went all off, but he also got hurt in the middle of the regular season. So he was out. He got some rest, so he was able to go full throttle and really put it all as quote unquote old as he is. And Golden State actually needed all of that. So that helped knock off Boston from what that looked like. But again, bringing it back to LeBron, he's played in 266 playoff games. He's missed the playoffs 4 times in his entire career since 2003. Even though we're a LeBron stan podcast, we even take him for granted. It's intense of how high of standards we hold him, whatever it might be. And we're kissing his ass and whatever it might be. But I mean, he's so good and consistently good that when a superstar struggles, it's oh yeah, LeBron you brought up 2007. That was 15 years ago. That was 15 years ago. Even 2011 was...
How many careers have died since 2007?
How many careers last 266 games? LeBron's played that in his playoffs. It's intense. So, I think it all comes back to it, but I agree, some of these superstars, we got to hold them to a different standard if they are going to be superstars. And I think that's where some of the old players from the previous generation, like the Shaqs, the Barkleys, whatever, they get upset because they were held to that standard. They were held to that greatness, but they expected it of themselves. We talked about Cat being corny, and I love Tatum. He's a dookie, stand-up guy. His son's cute as hell. But texting Kobe, I got this, and sharing the screenshot, that's fucking corny as hell.
That was the worst. That was so much cringe,
what
bro.
What are you doing? It's okay, we know you loved Kobe. Kobe loved you. That's great. It's just weird when you're oh yeah, here's a screenshot of it. Yeah. Cool.
Kobe would not have loved that performance, that's for sure.
No
he
way.
would not have. Also, I did some quick math. When you brought up how many games LeBron had played in the playoffs, 266. That's 3 times as many games Zion has played in his career. I just thought I'd throw in another Zion shot while we're in You Played Yourself. 3.12 times as many games Zion has played in his career, and he just signed a $230 million contract.
Must be nice.
I got beef, bro. Pay off my student loans.
By the way, you were talking about Shaq. Just to connect a little tidbit, how long LeBron's been doing this. You guys talked about Shaq. Shaq's son signed a deal with the Los Angeles Lakers.
Yeah.
So LeBron is technically teammates with the father and son.
Yeah.
Now. So
amazing.
Here we are.
And Pippen's son too, right? Like that's crazy, man.
I think you've talked about this really quickly on Pippen's son. Is it weird that he's a junior? Brown, I think you've like tweeted something about this. Yeah. That they had for spelling first names. How the fuck does that even happen? It's not like it's not a nickname. Like if it's like Richard Pippen, like Richie and Rich, fine, cool, that's different. But Scotty and Scotty, IE and Y, like that's not the same name. Like it doesn't fucking count.
Strange.
Nope. I did some research. I guess Senior changed his spelling like when he got to the NBA because he people kept. It was something like he didn't want people to call him Scott, so the IE made it like obvious that it was a Scotty or something like that.
It's the Y.
So the son, I don't know. Like I genuinely don't get it. I think if you're his son and you're a junior anyway, you got to roll with how dad spelled it.
Yeah, is it legally is it legally binding to be a junior if it's not spelled the same? Technically, it's a new name.
Yeah, I would just change it at that point.
We could have an entire podcast about debating this. Like,
I guess the only part of it that I would change is like if like he actually changed his last name to Pippen Jr. Like it's like one word, not Pippen, Jr.
Pippen.
So I don't know.
Pippen Jr.
Pippen brother.
Like that's his last name, Pippen Jr.
I'm not gonna be able to unhear that anytime I see him. If he makes the roster, I'm just saying Pippen Jr. now, just flowing it. Okay. I wanted to, before I get back to put a bow on the NBA, I did want to put You Played Yourself. We got to cover a little bit of NFL because there was some big news out of the Carolina and Cleveland fronts, and that is that the Carolina Panthers traded a 5th-round pick for Baker Mayfield. But instead of me talking to you about this, I'm going to leave this to my bro, a past co-host and Panthers fan, Jeff Robinson. He needs to break this down for you number one podcast listeners because I like to give my resident fans the chance to really rant about what their team is doing. So take it away, Jeff.
Pram, buddy, thanks so much for having me on this week. Yes, I am here as your resident Carolina Panthers fan to discuss the big NFL news of the week. Baker Mayfield traded to the Carolina Panthers. I think you might be surprised about my thoughts on it. So, can't wait to dive in. Here's what I'll say. I think overall I am not surprised by this move. First off, the Carolina Panthers have the worst quarterback room in the league, maybe aside from Seattle. So there have been rumors the last couple months that they were looking to make an addition to the quarterback room of Sam Darnold and Matt Corral. Jimmy G was linked to them. Baker Mayfield was also linked to them the last couple months, and ultimately Baker was traded to the Panthers yesterday. Now, objectively speaking, I think this is good value for Carolina. Carolina gave up a 2024 conditional 5th-round pick that can turn into a 4th based on playing time. I think it's safe to assume that Baker will be starting, so I imagine he will hit that metric, and this will most likely be a 4th-round pick, which is fine. Panthers will only pay about $4.85 million of Baker's salary. Obviously, the Browns ate most of that. Baker took a pay cut. I think we can objectively say that Baker had a great 2020. 25 TDs, 8 interceptions, a rating of 95.9. Okay, I can live with that. Also, comparing this to other quarterback deals that have been done recently. Carson Wentz, very average quarterback, traded for 2 third-round picks and a second-round pick swap. Matt Ryan, ancient. The guy is ancient. Is he 40? I don't know how old he is, but he went for a third-round pick, and there was a $54 million contract kicked on. And the best one of them all, Sam Darnold himself went for a second, fourth, sixth, and guaranteed $18 million a year contract. So, what's my point? My point is that of all these average quarterbacks to below average quarterbacks, the trade for Baker seems pretty reasonable, right? Throw him in for a year, Panthers win 7 games, Matt Rule doesn't get fired. It's all coming together, right? Wrong. This is where all the positives end for me. I think there's a couple problems that I have with this, and really the state of the Panthers franchise, the way they've managed these quarterbacks, asset management in general. Can I tell you what the Panthers have given up to get the worst quarterback room in the league? They've traded a second, a third, 2 fourths, fifth, sixth. What does that get us? Baker Mayfield, Matt Corral, and Sam Darnold, who Sam Darnold probably won't be in the league next year. So that was a botched one. Good job, Jets. Opportunity cost missed out on. What do I mean by that, Jeff? What I mean by that is I think Baker Mayfield is just good enough, and I think the Panthers do have a pretty decent roster to get them to 7 or 8 wins. That probably pushes us out of the Bryce Young, CJ Stroud sweepstakes. I think most scouts probably feel that those 2 quarterbacks are going to be franchise quarterbacks and will be one of the first 2 players taken off the board. Not to mention all the competition for those quarterbacks. Seattle's going to want one. Detroit's going to want one. Atlanta's going to want one. Saints going to want one, just to name a few. Probably Giants. Panthers aren't going to have the opportunity to draft one of those guys. They're just not. The only way they were going to be able to do that was throw out poopy Sam Darnold, win 2 or 3 games, fire Matt Rule, and start all over. The other issue I have with this is how they've been managing trying to find a franchise quarterback the last couple of years. In 2020, they had the chance, or I feel like a pretty good position to trade up with the assets that they had to get Justin Herbert, who was picked 1 spot ahead of them at 7 to the Chargers. 2021, the best one yet. They had Justin Fields sitting there for them to take at 8 without having to give up any additional assets. Instead, they opted for the luxury cornerback position. As the Primal does have the receipts of me being upset by this, and people probably thought I was crazy at the time. How's it looking now, boys? Huh? How's it looking now? That's all I have to say. I love when I'm right. And yes, you can say, Jeff, Justin didn't look that good last year. Have you seen that Bears starting receiving core? Have you seen that team? Yeah, I thought so. They also had the chance to draft Mac Jones, who I wasn't as high on with Justin Fields, but had a pretty good season for New England. I think long-term he's going to be pretty good. So just right there, just in the last year's draft, they had an opportunity to get their franchise quarterback, Justin Fields, without having to give up any of these additional picks. Any of them. This past draft, unfortunately, there was just no quarterbacks worthy of taking. They had to address the left tackle position. I'm fine with that. So the moral of the story here is just a complete mismanagement of the assets that they've had, draft capital, to address the quarterback position. Do I think Baker's going to have some good moments this year? Probably. Do I think he's going to be able to see over the offensive line? Well, we know he can't do that. Not to mention the fact that he's going to have to throw to Robbie Anderson, at least for now, who is publicly complaining about the idea of trading for him. We got Matt Rule, who still thinks he's in college. We got Rah-Rah Baker. I don't know what that's going to mean for us. I know we have a really bad quarterback room. I know we have no franchise quarterback in sight. But I do know that overall, the value that they gave up for Baker isn't a detriment to the franchise. It's really not. So I guess we'll see where this goes. Baker's on my team now. So go Baker.
All right, I couldn't have said it better myself. Thanks, Jeffy. for that contribution. We got to get him back on here. Interesting fact, he's probably the co-host that has done the most research when I've had him on. Yeah. Good little tidbit for him. You can tell he prepped that answer, and he's got a lot of fiery. I posted a tweet. I said, be sending your positive thoughts towards my guy Jeff. There's nothing wrong with him. It's just that Baker Mayfield is his team's quarterback now. So just wanted to make sure your number one podcast listeners send him some vibes. Oh yeah, they're having a QB competition, just allegedly. Speaking of allegedly, let me wrap up the NBA. You played yourselves. I just need to remind you guys, I've seen some false reports that Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and the WOT, Mr. New Media himself, got their 4th rings. That is incorrect. It's false. They've gotten their 2nd ring. It's their 2nd title. It's actually their first one without an asterisk. It might be their first one that actually counts. As you may recall, their other one that they do have is in 2015. They never faced a single healthy team in their path to an alleged title in which Andre Iguodala was the finals MVP. Get the fuck out of here. That should have been the only other time other than Jerry West in a losing effort where an MVP should have gone. That should have went to LeBron James. That man carried Matthew Dellavedova and company, Timofey Mozgov, to 6 games without sorry-ass Warriors team asterisk title in 2015. So I just need to set that straight. And while they're trying to crown themselves the Petty Kings, let the real King of Petty remind you that roughly 6 years ago, the Snakes of Oakland blew a 3-1 lead in the NBA Finals and lost to LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Rebound taken by Iguodala. Iguodala to Curry, back to Iguodala, up for the layup. Oh, blocked by James. LeBron James with the rejection.
Steph was the unanimous MVP on a 73-win team with 2 home games remaining, and they lost that series. So just make sure we know that the Warriors only have 2 rings, and don't ever play yourself and think anything other than that. Don't you let them point to a pinky ring or whatever. That means they skipped fingers. That's all I can tell you.
Excellent.
Love it.
Co-signed.
Love it. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So I know I've been doing kind of like outside the scope of sports, so I did want to cover You Played Yourself. And I've been doing some playful ones. I do have a playful one to kind of wrap things up. But before that, I wanted to kind of turn things over to a more serious note here. This dates back to June. A number of Tampa Bay Rays players at the time decided not to wear rainbow-colored logos on their uniforms as part of the team's annual Pride Night that recognized LGBTQIA plus community. So just a little background. Among the players who elected to remove the logo were pitchers Jason Adam, Jalen Beeks, Brooks Raley, Jeffrey Springs, and Ryan Thompson. And that's according to the Tampa Bay Times. The pitcher Jason Adam was elected to speak for the group after the game, and he said the following. And I just want to read this just so you guys are aware. And believe me, as I read this, I recognize how ridiculous it is, and I'm going to talk about it. Quote, so it's a hard decision because ultimately we all said that what we want is them to know that they're all welcome and loved here. But when we put it on our bodies, I think a lot of guys decided that it's a lifestyle that maybe, not that they look down on anybody or think differently, it's just that maybe we don't want to encourage it if we believe in Jesus, who's encouraged us to live a lifestyle that would abstain from that behavior. He continued, it's not judgmental, it's not looking down, it's just what we believe. The lifestyle he's encouraged us to live for our good, not to withhold. But again, we love these men and women. We care about them. And we want them to feel safe and welcome here. End quote. Let me just tell you right now, you number one podcast listeners, the Tampa Bay Rays, that group of players chose Jason Adam to speak for them. And he uttered that idiotic, chock full of hypocrisy quote. Absolutely full of judgment, even though he claimed they were doing the opposite. First of all, lifestyle? How antiquated and unevolved can you be? You literally have to try to ignore any bit of understanding to use that word to describe the LGBTQIA plus community that way. You went out of your way to use lifestyle. We aren't looking down on them. We want them to feel safe, but we can't put a freaking uniform patch on because we don't encourage something we have the audacity to think is a lifestyle choice. Give me a fucking break. No religion on this earth teaches that sort of divisiveness. And to hide behind your religion as an excuse to fluff up bigotry is unacceptable at this point. It is freaking 2022. But, you know, Vish and Roche, who am I kidding here, right? With what's been going on lately, with the amount of shootings our country is enduring and the rights they're taking away from our LGBTQIA plus people and the unequal treatment of minorities, women, all across the board. These hypocritical, idiotic, privileged, ignorant Rays players were just the tip of the iceberg and a microcosm for this shitstorm we found ourselves. I'm sorry I had to evolve into that. That's one that spilled into sports, and you know I'm not shy away from that, but I just think it's utterly ridiculous that you're going to release a quote that's completely contradictory to what you're spewing out of your stupid mouth. So, Jason Adam and those Rays players, you played yourself, but again, just a microcosm of what shit is going on around all of us at this point.
Yeah, I don't think there's much to add to what you said. I think it's obnoxious, and I think if we're on a serious note, I think even what's going on in Akron, so like with Jalen Walker and just the mistreatment of people and just how people, and then you see a mass shooter in a parade for July 4th and gets the benefit of the doubt and was fleeing, and there's just all this hypocrisy that exists, and it's just sad. And even like right now, how the city that I live in right now, which would never think that, but it happens. We're under a curfew just so that there's a respect to the peaceful protest, but just making sure that when emotions run high, it just gets chaotic and in the right ways, and it continues. And we saw that with the overturn of Roe v. Wade, and it's not about politics or being on one side or the other. And I think we've done that for so long, and the Rays and what you just went through, like what you just talked about, Bram, here, and what they were talking about, it's just rough, just to see the world come to it.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with everything both you guys said. My issue with any time, like, these Rays players, like, they seem to get on this, like, soapbox as if it matters what they think. But one of the biggest problems of, like, detractors of movements that are humanitarian based and equal rights based is when you speak out against it and you have to sit here and talk about your opinion and like your faith and this and that, you're ultimately making it about yourself. Yeah, and it's like, why do these 5 players need to separate themselves from a team? You care about your team so fucking much. You probably are in the locker rooms praising team this, team that, but then you separate yourself from the team when you do something like this. The whole team is doing it. Regardless, suck it up, shut the fuck up, just do it. If not, take a pay cut and skip those games. Just be like, I would like to opt out. Refuse to make yourself available to media and have to make statements like this. Because when you make statements like this, they just look stupid. Honestly, if they opt out, people would understand. Once they say all this stuff and they're like, oh, if we believe in Jesus and this lifestyle, that lifestyle, they make it about themselves, and they make themselves extremely uneducated and outright like ignorant and stupid. Yeah. And I know that anyone that's in their church or follows the religions that they do can probably agree that, yeah, I don't really agree with it either. I probably wouldn't speak out against it. When are these people just going to, like, shut the fuck up? They should try shutting the fuck up. Yeah. Like, they always want to make it about themselves. And these guys, honestly, man, they're just not good enough. Like, these guys are, like, at the back end of the bullpen. Why are you trying to make everything about yourself? Go win some fucking games. Go do what you have to in the AL East race, and just shut the fuck up about this. Why are you making headlines? We shouldn't be talking about this at all. There's so many more pressing issues every single day. Vish just touched on 2 of them. That was in the last fucking 2 weeks. There's so much bigger stuff, and why are we giving these guys time and airtime and anything like that? Like, fuck them, man. And it's just like they continue to make things about themselves, and that's what a lot of people on those side of things do. And you got to stop giving them attention. They're like kids throwing tantrums.
100%.
Yep.
Yeah. That's all I got for that.
All right. Let's end You Played Yourself on a lighter note, I like to add in a few things that need to be put on notice and immediately discontinued. And this one I thought was appropriate. Candidates for immediate retirement for You Played Yourself filming fireworks. Listen, I've seen a lot of you refrain over the years, but I need you to know that one person posting fireworks is one too many. And guys, can we consider just leaving the fireworks to professionals? I mean, how many videos do we see of people almost lighting their houses on fire or lighting a family member on fire?
Bag up, Terry. Put it reverse, Terry.
Because they think they're some pyrotechnics. I don't understand why you need these renta fireworks at your home. They're community ones. And also, I know, I think the three of us are pretty lucky, and we've been prepared with our dogs so they don't react too harshly, but there are quite a few dog owners out there, and I have new perspective on having a kid. I mean, the fireworks in the neighborhood, guys, come on. What are we doing here? We're just trying to make our neighbors upset? Is that what we're doing? You're trying to scare all the dogs in the neighborhood. We're trying to wake up all the children in the neighborhood just because you want to light off a firework you got in the state over. Come on, guys.
Yeah.
It's not that deep. It doesn't look that cool.
Yeah.
It's like grown men doing it for their children. The children aren't even paying attention.
Mm-hmm.
Get them a sparkler.
I mean, I'd honestly take it a little bit further. Not to buzzkill this whole situation. I know we're trying to immediately retire these things, but why are we even doing fireworks as a city? Don't we have enough things that we need to be spending our money on? In the wake of these mass shootings, and how many fucking shootings have we had in the last week? And then you want to have fireworks displays, oh, it's all good here, guys. Let's have this waste of $50K for the city that put it on, and it's you're charging $6.50 a gallon for gas. Come on, let's prioritize a little bit. Come on. Yeah. One city, two city, three cities, yeah, we can do it at 8 p.m. at nightfall, and then call it a fucking day. This shit's so overplayed. Who gives a fuck anymore?
Instagram Live that shit. It'll be easier.
Yeah.
At least that way I can ignore it.
And just screen record it and post it as your own.
And if you are doing stuff at your house and all of that, I give you some level of grace on the 3rd and the 4th. But if it's if you're doing shit on July 1st and then you're doing stuff a week from now, please do something better with your money.
Pay off someone's student loans.
Yeah.
Yeah, for real. Amen. All right. That wraps up You Played Yourself. Let's move on to who you got and what you feeling. And last episode, Roche, you and I picked our NBA Finals winner and who wins MVP. And this is a rare, complete win for me. I don't enjoy it necessarily because of who I picked, but I was 100% right. I said the Snakes of Oakland would win their first title since 2015. See the consistency, guys?
I got you.
I thought Steph Curry would win Finals MVP. And I thought they would win over the Celtics, because at the time we were down to the conference finals. So shout out me, baby.
So what you're saying is this is your fault.
Yeah, kind of. My bad.
Way to go, dude.
You played yourself.
Yeah.
Way to turn that completely around really quickly.
Anyone who hated the Snakes of Oakland can thank Premalbot, host of Prem Brulee, the #1 podcast in your headphones, that they won the championship because of his prediction. Way to fucking go, dude.
Listen, I might bleep that out in the recording. Just act like you're...
Stand on the box, man. Stand on your words. You did this to us.
I guess so. Anyway, this week, let's bring it back to our favorite subject. You Played Yourself, Hall of Fame members, and soon-to-be former Brooklyn Villains teammates. What team does King Snake, soon to be maybe re-nicknamed Kevin Durant, play for next season? Who you got?
I am going to go ahead and say it's going to be the Nets. I just don't think – I think we mentioned it, the Rudy Gobert haul. I don't think anyone can give that to the Nets. They've talked about all the teams that can give that to the Nets are teams that he's not going to.
Yeah.
and we know he's a front runner. So the teams he wants to go to are not going to be willing to give up Devin Booker or Bam or any of these players to get him. So, and I mean, how much does that really improve the Suns if they can't have Devin Booker but they get Kevin Durant? You know what I mean? So it's just like, I think they're going to end up staying. Like I said earlier in the podcast, they have a great team on paper. Once they start throwing their little tantrum, they might just run it back. That's if Lakers don't end up somehow, finagling Kyrie away, which would be nice for LeBron.
Yeah, I it's hard to go against that at this point. I mean, even if you're looking at the odds, like Suns probably have the best odds, barely over the Nets, and then it's kind of followed by the Raptors after that. So, and then the other part of it is like the Nets still have like the 9th best odds to win the NBA championship. So that hasn't really changed. And so, I mean, Roche, to your point, like it's, on paper, they're a really good team. And for Durant to leave, it's silly almost, because you're not, like you just said, you're not going to a better situation. It might be a better team from last year, but, unless he's joining the Warriors, which I guess still could happen. But again, the Warriors would have to mortgage their entire future. They're not signing Kevin Durant as a free agent. So, you lose all that depth, you lose all those different things for a 34-year-old player that's coming off, 2 years removed from an Achilles injury. Yeah, he's one of the greatest probably in the game, top 15, but is a big thing, and he hasn't really shown much as of late. So
this is a tricky one. My hunch is I'm gonna kind of go a little bit left field. I'm gonna go with the Heat. I think the Heat would be okay with letting go of anyone besides Jimmy Butler, and I think that makes it a little bit more plausible. Yeah. I think the Nets don't have to depart with Durant, so to think that they would all of a sudden be okay with the Suns not offering Booker and offering some of their other pieces, I don't think it's one of those things where Durant has any leverage or anyone has any leverage where they can wait it out for the Nets to cave. So I think the Heat could probably put together a pretty good package for Durant with the young players they have, including Bam Adebayo, because I think Jimmy Butler and Kevin Durant makes them an immediate top team in the East. And I guess we'll see what happens. Honestly, I could see him staying with the Nets because he doesn't have a no trade clause and he's got 4 years left on his deal. So it's obviously seems like it's kind of a when for Kyrie and it's more of an if for Kevin Durant. So
yeah, I would say the one caveat is the Heat can't trade, or the Nets can't get Bam Adebayo unless they trade Ben Simmons. So they both are on rookie extension, so they actually can't. There's like a CBA rule or some shit that Bobby Marks has like talked about, tweeted about, said podcasts about. So Bam Adebayo can go to the Nets, but then the Nets would have to get rid of Ben Simmons as well. So it's like a weird thing that they have. But yeah, so that's the only caveat. So really the Heat don't have much to offer.
Right.
Hey, do you want Duncan Robinson? No.
Yeah.
You can keep him.
Tyler Hero, yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know.
Anyway,
the Celtics are actually an interesting one because they could actually package a Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, a few picks, and really go all in for a title. Why not?
True.
I kind of like that.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's going from one East team to another East team, so it's tough. But I guess the Nets and the Sixers did that, so I don't fucking know.
True. Okay, this was a hypothetical. Vish, you sent this to me. I think you saw it on Twitter.
Jamel Hill.
Kyrie Irving, Jamel Hill tweeted this. If Kyrie Irving had gotten vaccinated, like he damn well should have, the Brooklyn Villains would have finished where? So you're talking how many, not necessarily how many wins, where do you think they'd finish? How far do you think they would have gotten in the playoffs? And would they still stay together?
How many wins would they have had? I would probably say in the high 40s, low 50s. I think they probably would have finished around there, but I think they would have been a lot more potent in the playoffs. Their seeding would have been better. They would have not faced a very hungry Celtics team round one. I see that their season would have been much better. I don't see that they would have won the championship, though. I think it's all kind of a moot point at this point, but it's fun to talk about just because Kyrie's such an easy target.
Yeah. Well, I think
he's a teammate of LeBron again.
That's true. I think Harden probably doesn't even leave if Kyrie got vaccinated too.
That's a good point.
So I think, all said and done, they probably are one of the top seeds. And if everyone stays healthy and includes like all their teams, Milwaukee's probably, Boston was there and they were a good team, but, Milwaukee obviously was missing Chris Middleton, and they probably could have even beat the Warriors because like no one's guarding Giannis on Golden State. So like, I think that's the only team that I would have said, if everything's all healthy, everyone's there, maybe Milwaukee gives them a run for their money. But Kyrie, Jim, KD, nickname to be determined. It's going to be hard to beat that team.
Yeah.
And they had some depth too.
Yeah.
Like they had Dragic and like Patty Mills.
Yeah, I think they would have been one of the top seeds. I probably saw their ceiling being conference finals because of what we outlined. Vichy brought up a great point. Like in this alternate universe, maybe someone beats up on the Celtics, but you still have the Celtics as a competitor. You have the Bucks, you have the Heat. So between those, I can't imagine. You would have to think that they would run out of some steam because even if you got vaccinated, Kyrie's ass would have sat out a few games because of injury. So it's not like they would have got a full season in, considering he has barely done that in his entire career. Let's move on to what you feeling. What do you got for us? Vish, start with you. What are you feeling lately?
Yeah, I'll stick with TV a little bit. So there's like an HBO really mini series, I would say. It's called We Own the City. It's based off a book, and David Simon like kind of helped go from that book to that series. So it's just a 6 episode, about an hour each for each episode. Really great. Baltimore. So anyone that's fans of The Wire, like definitely highly recommended. I'm actually like reading the book right now. So it's intense and it's pretty relevant and topical because it just follows Baltimore PD and the corruption that happened. And it's like a real life story in that. And then again, going back to hockey, even if you don't like hockey, the E60 documentary, it seems like it'd be a 30 for 30, but it's called Unrivaled, and it just follows the Avalanche Red Wings rivalry. It is a longer documentary, but incredible. It just shows like just how intense it was, full out brawls, full out fights. So it had gotten me into hockey, and it kind of dovetailed into the Blue Jackets having their own team, but it was intense. And so if you are able to watch it, I'd highly recommend that, just because it's different and it's like old time hockey, 20 some years ago.
Yeah, as far as what I'm feeling, I'm definitely feeling the summer. I moved to a new complex. Our pool just opened this past week, so that's pretty sweet.
Nice.
The shows in Austin are picking up, so I've been going to a lot of shows lately. Got a few more on the horizon. Other than that, just smooth sailing, getting used to the new city. Would probably also say I'm feeling that I found a new hoop group.
Nice.
Moving from Houston to Austin, I lost the group of people I play basketball with every week. So I have a friend who lives here, and he just called me. He's like, hey, a spot opened up. Do you want in? And I was like, let's do it. So I will be hooping again full time. My hoop dreams as a under 6 foot NBA star that never was continues. ACLs be damned.
Hey, doing more than I am, man. Huge credit.
Also, I'm feeling the fact that you two both had your first Father's Day.
Yeah,
that's
right.
pretty
Thanks.
fucking sweet. So happy belated Father's Day to both you guys. Hopefully you guys had a nice time. We didn't talk really soon after that, but yeah, sweet.
Appreciate you.
Good times around.
Appreciate that. Yeah, it was a fun time for sure. It's been joyful just to see the personalities roll, and you can even see it in the pictures of when for Barrett and even Calvin, and just seeing that go in, and it is a different perspective for sure. So I appreciate you saying that.
For sure.
Yeah, appreciate you.
And I haven't really even been watching any like new media. But go Stros, you know.
Yeah,
we're doing
baby.
we're
Go
doing
Stros,
pretty
baby.
good right now. We're kicking
Yeah.
some ass, so let's get it.
I'm
know
rocking
the
the
vibes.
Bagwell BGO
Let's get it,
MLB
baby.
Jam.
We went this whole podcast without talking about the Stros, and I just realized, and I'm like, nah, fuck
Go
that, man.
Go Stros alert,
Go
baby.
Stros.
You know the vibes.
Yeah, bang bang, baby, buzz buzz.
Bang, 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 buzz, buzz, bitches. And play that. Let's play that Hose Mad, baby.
Yeah, one more
There
time.
you go.
Okay. What I'm feeling, I got a couple TV shows. No, I mean, everybody's talking about it, but Stranger Things Season 4, probably the season I've enjoyed the most since Season 1. And then another show that we just, my wife and I just kind of flew through is Severance on Apple TV. I know that's getting a lot of love lately, too. Kind of a wild concept, trippy, and you see a lot of connections and what they're trying to get at, and it's just the first season so far, and I know they're come back with another season down the road, but it ends on a hell of a season finale. So highly recommend those two shows if you feel like everybody's heard of Stranger Things, but maybe you haven't caught the recommendation for Severance.
You're like the third person to mention that show, so.
Yeah, I'd
check it
heard it
out.
from random people. I couldn't even pinpoint like who mentioned them, but I was like, we were looking for a show. We kind of breezed through. We had started in between. Stranger Things split into two. They had like one that released part of the season that released in May, and the other one just dropped on July 1st. So in between those, we had started it, but very
It's
very
a Ben Stiller
crazy.
one, right? Like Ben
he's a
Stiller's like
producer of
producing it, right? Yeah, that's crazy.
But Adam Scott's in it. You might know him as Ben Wyatt from Parks and Rec, and also Patricia Arquette is in it, and I'm sure she's a really nice lady, but I can't like unsee her in some of the creepy roles she's played. Like she just kind of like embodies that. She's really good at playing it, and she's fantastic in the show.
Adam Scott was also in Step Brothers.
He was.
Yes.
Look at that.
Speaking of,
Full
Catalina
circle.
Wine Mixer, baby. Yes. All right, you number one podcast listeners. You know I like to end each episode with my too much sense. So without further ado, let's get going on it. That's right, you number one podcast listeners. This episode's Too Much Sense kind of connects back to some of our serious topics. Given the state of things outside of this podcast's usual petty, fiery, playful presence, it's more important than ever to surround yourself with the right people. Make sure you're not just surrounded by yes men and yes women and friends that are just there to have a good time. You need those friends that will hold you accountable, those just checking on you friends, those I'm proud of you friends, those how are your mentals friends. With everything so heavy, you got to surround yourself with people that can share the burden or at least help provide a healthy response to that burden. Some people that you can really talk to, because just having a good time may help temporarily, but that heaviness will still be there waiting for you to make a lasting, healthy response after that temporary relief. So might as well handle it now and surround yourself with people that can you can learn from and help balance that stuff and talk to things about. So that's my too much sense for this week.
Good one, man.
Nice, love it. It's a good one.
Yeah. All right, you number one podcast listeners, that does it for our special edition of the number one podcast in your headphones, Prem Brulee. I've been your host, Premel Bot. I've been joined by two co-hosts this time, my big bro, Vish Bot, and my big cuz, Roshan Bot. Thank you both for being on here. Thank you for both calling dibs. It's fun to do these triple co-host episodes.
Yes, sir.
It is good.
You number one podcast listeners, a peek behind the curtain. They're a absolute bitch to edit, so hopefully you enjoy this one because they're fun to record. It's just the editing in between is not fun for you, boy. But anything for you, you number one podcast listeners. You know the vibes. You're my people, so you deserve it.
The dedication that Prem Brulee puts into this is intense. So putting it out for all you guys. Yep.
He's the first one in, last one out type of guy. You know, gym rat.
Real gym rat. A coach's son.
Coach's son. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, student of the game right here.
Student of the game, yeah.
What it do, baby? Yeah.
You number one podcast listeners, I want to thank you for tuning in to another edition with three co-hosts this time. We will talk to you on the next edition of the number one podcast in your headphones, Prem Brulee. Peace.
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 What? Did we just become best friends? Yup.